Hey everybody, happy Dreamcast Day. I thought I would take a break from cons as well as touring around the country and other stuff like that and just focus on something that actually is a part of my childhood and actually started my gaming core in general. And that would be the Sonic Adventure games. Regardless of your consensus on the adventure games, Sonic Adventure 1 and 2 have definitely left a huge impact in the Sonic community, not only leading the franchise into bold new directions, but actually making Sega have the unlimited boundaries of what they can and can't do when it comes to jumping into 3D. And it didn't matter if I had a memory card or not. I used to play these games all the damn time when I was a kid. And I had a lot of fun with them. Although, looking back at it as an adult, I actually prefer Adventure 1's gameplay more than Adventure 2. And while the Sega Dreamcast is considered one of the most underrated consoles of all time, it definitely has its fair share of memorable pieces in its library, such as Crazy Taxi, Shenmue, Sonic Adventure 2, and a couple of other games. But I'm not here to talk about my retrospective on the adventure games, nor even the Dreamcast itself. Now, some of us are unfortunate to not actually own the Adventure nor Adventure 2 merch from back when we were kids. So, actually finding something fairly decent condition-wise, even if they're mint in box, is extremely rare to come by, even for an affordable price. For those actually wondering if they could actually find something that's fairly close to what you can see in the actual game and have it be a part of your collection without costing an arm and a leg, what if I told you there is a method to that? And that's what we're going to be looking into today with TitoTheOG's Sonic mods. If the camera can actually focus, there we go. When I first saw the sculpt for these figures, I thought they looked great just by the sculpt alone. And while you do have the option of choosing either the unpainted models or the painted models, I decided to go for the unpainted and just do my own custom job to see what I can actually put onto the table with these figures. Now, when it comes to official Sonic merch, we've never actually had a Sonic figure with soap shoes since the Adventure 2 Joyride figures, like I showed for Shadow here. So to see Tito make an upgrade for the Jakks specific toys definitely makes it a huge impact on how it looks on the shelf. Now, Tito actually does have a suggestion on what kind of figures are acceptable for some of these parts. However, for this one, all I did was just grab the Wave 2 Sonic body mod with the snowboard. And unfortunately, even though right now he does look like everything is connected, you can already tell, yeah, things are kind of loose, but that's just more of me not thinking before acting. But luckily, I was able to do a couple of mods on this. And now, unfortunately, I wasn't able to prime the parts that actually came included with the kit, so I pretty much just hand-painted everything that I could between Sharpie paints, regular paints, Gundam markers for like the black outlining, or the panel lining for the soap shoes, just basic stuff like that. So I actually wasn't able to do a whole lot compared to the next project that I'll talk about, which was actually more time consuming. But I'm still happy with what I did for Sonic here, for the most part. And I only say for the most part because I tried giving him some custom flesh on the fleshy bits for Sonic, but unfortunately the paint started chipping off on the shoulders, so that's a derp on my end. And even though the movement or the articulation is exactly the same as what you'd expect from the regular figures, in regards to actually pegging the gloves and boots and the head into place, the arms I actually had to secure with like foam clay inside the actual ball socket right here, so it's not as secure as it normally would be on a regular figure, so I did my best with what I could for Sonic here. And the unfortunate thing is, because of how the arms are articulated, there's not a whole lot of in and out when it comes to like a butterfly joint or something. So holding the chow properly like in the game, that's impossible in this case. But you can still make him pet them, so that's a plus.
Don't worry, buddy.
And now we get on to the one projects that I put the most time, effort, blood, sweat, and tears into. Project Shadow. No, not the giant lizard, but just this Shadow. When I first received Shadow, I thought the sculpting looked perfect between... It's like having Roger Rabbit actually pop out of the TV screen in front of your own predicament. That's pretty much how I felt when I actually finished the project altogether. Although I will admit that compared to Sonic, I definitely had my fair share of trial and error when it comes to Shadow. Specifically, the skin color that I was trying to invoke. And much like Sonic, I also used some model paints as well as Sharpie paints, and not a whole lot of panel lining. Well, little to no panel lining, I should say. Though the one thing that really caught my attention was, obviously, I did follow Tito's instructions on what kind of body I should use for the figure itself, and I even asked about the chest fur that was surprisingly a separate piece, and he suggested to dye the figure. Yeah. Let's just say, when I say trial and error, working on the ultimate life form here in this case was both a blessing and a curse. There is a shit ton of shit to put into this fucking thing. I mean, god damn, dude. So many things for you to actually put effort into this. Like, even just with the little indents that you see on the inhibitor rings, like, I mean, I know that's game model accurate, but, like, I appreciate the details, but it's just, like, going into all the little nooks and crannies and dyeing the figure and getting the right necessary amount of dye, which I actually did follow the instructions on that properly. And it's just like, my god, I'm just glad to get this project out of the way when it comes to time, but, like, my god. I was so close to cracking! And I actually was using the 2D art as a basis on the color scheme in general, as well as the actual Jakks specific figure from Wave 1. However, one thing that I actually noticed while double checking the game model is that while the thrusters on the bottom of his air shoes actually have 5 different thrusters, the ones on the heels are actually one flat on the ground, one angled, and I thought that was just an error on Tito's part. However, that is game model accurate, so props to Tito for that. And it's actually funny because when I first got the Wave 1 Shadow figure from Jakks Specific, this originally was my favorite figure from the Jakks Specific line. However, after doing the custom projects that I've done, I can safely say that as an Adventure 2 fan, I definitely prefer what I worked on a lot more than what we actually got. And Tito's actually going to be making an update on this too. And even just looking at the two figures side by side, you can definitely tell it's night and day, both in sculpt and in height.
You're taller! How fucking dare you?
If I were to draw one criticism on what I could have done to improve the figure, it would probably make the gold on the inhibitor rings on his wrists and ankles, make them actually look more gold rather than dull after applying some matte coat on the figure itself. But in the end, I'm still pleased with the results for the most part. And even just the still shot with all the chow here, I already have too much chow in here, so might as well just throw them in here. But it all just looks adorbs. And while I don't have any interest in buying the $250 limited run games version of Sonic Shadow Generations, I'm at least happy with just grabbing my old Dreamcast, grabbing these two figures, placing them on top of this, and just calling it a day, because in the end, this really does make it look perfect, even if my Dreamcast is custom painted. And now some of you guys are probably going to be asking, is the head compatible with the Super Shadow figure? Well, obviously, yeah, because the quills are pretty much the same in sculpt head-wise, everything all the same. However, due to budget reasons, I actually prefer base Shadow more than I do for Super Shadow, especially from a color scheme level, so I didn't do the Super Shadow mod for this. So, sorry Super Shadow fans. But overall, if you do have the Jakks specific Sonic and Shadow figures, I would definitely recommend getting these upgrades if you're a fan of Adventure 2 like I am. Even though I said Adventure 1, but I also grew up with 2 as well. Though, please do keep in mind that these will sell fast like hotcakes whenever Tito announces them to be in stock, so gotta go fast! Or, if you're not interested in any of the Adventure 2 merch that Tito puts out, he also has other merch such as Sonic and the Black Knight, Sonic Riders, everything you can think of, he can make perfectly. So, that's all I got for tonight, so in the meantime, I'll see you guys next time. Jana.